Okay, guys, file in. Put your Christmas jumpers in the box on the left and take a seat on the couch. Let's see if we can sleep off this turkey hangover you guys have. Hope you guys have had a fantastic Christmas. Welcome back. And today I'm bringing you a show that I've been really looking forward to doing. It's a show I got to sit with Ali and Des from Mythstories. Now, Mythstories, they are storytellers. They tell age-old stories without words or without text. They tell them as the land lies, and they kind of adapt them for their audience, all these stories. And they are fantastic people, and what they do is they inspire people to create. And that for me is, I mean, if you've been listening to the show for the last few weeks, should I say, you'll understand that I really do appreciate and admire creators, and anybody that inspires people to go on and create, to me, is a hero. Think of people like, Shakespeare, going back that far, or Dickens, Tolkien, J.K. Rowling even. These people, there was a moment in their life when there was a spark, that inspiration, that thing that happened to them that made them decide to go and write or create or paint, and that's what Ali and Des do. They help the youth. They take the imagination of the youth and they nurture it, and that's really important. And they're fantastic people, really friendly. I really enjoy. One of the best interviews I've ever had. Thank you very much to the Shrewsbury Coffee House across from the train station there. They were brilliant. It was really cool to sit down there and interview. I was kind of a bit worried to start off with, because we had what looked like a large staff Christmas do kind of sat downstairs. It kind of filled downstairs of the coffee house, but it was really good actually. Added like an atmospheric feel to the show, which I really liked. Like I said, I hope you guys had a fantastic Christmas. Here's to the new year, 2019. That's when the Shrewsbury Biscuit is really going to take off. I'm going to be putting a lot more effort into our social media, our stories that we bring. I'm going to be bringing people in to go out and help me find information and speak on my behalf when I can't be there, because I can't be doing these shows after work on a Wednesday morning all the time. We need to try and find new ways to do it. But yeah, here's to 2019. Hope you have a great new year and enjoy the show. Thanks.
Hey, have you ever wondered what makes Shrewsbury such a great town? I think about it all the time. That's why I decided to create the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, a place where we can sit and talk to people from all walks of life, listen to stories about what makes this town such a great place to live. We're going to be talking to authors and historians, artists and musicians, entrepreneurs, and people that have got great stories to tell about this town. Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk to me. I've been dying to speak to you. I think we first met at a meeting in Shrewsbury. I first saw you guys anyway, and you guys absolutely blew me away. You had so much charisma and so much about you guys.
No, that's my hair, not my charisma.
That's what it was. I'm balding but growing my hair for charity, so I was kind of in awe of your hair.
Growing your hair for charity? Now that's a new one on me.
Yeah, I stupidly thought I could grow my hair for a year, look odd for a year, to try and put myself in the place for someone that's going for chemotherapy or has alopecia, to try and raise money for charity. So that's what I'm doing. I can't cut my hair now till July.
But you're not allowed to hide it under a baseball cap.
No, I'm not. I kind of look like a hillbilly at the moment. I kind of I look like I'm going to go and watch NASCAR.
It's a look. I mean, I'm losing my hair for charity. It's much the same thing, but completely different.
Yeah, well, what the idea is, in July, I'm going to shave it off, donate it. Well, there's a GoFundMe page. I keep putting it on the Shrewsbury Biscuit. Donate, guys. I've raised about £110 so far. So it's just whatever I make.
It's a good start.
Make sure this is recording properly, because I think it is. Yes. I use this mic to go around on the light switch and interview people, and I forgot that you have to press the record button twice.
Do you know, I did that once. I was actually recording a story for our website by Fran O'Boyle, who's in Shrewsbury and part of the Darwin Festival.
Yeah.
You know, and we sat down in the Gypsy Caravan in our museum, and he went through this absolutely brilliant traveller story, perfect for the museum. Did it brilliantly, and then I looked at the mic and said, "Oh my goodness, I've forgotten to press that button twice. You're gonna have to do it all again."
It's nothing worse. I think out of the 5 interviews I did, I got
Oh no.
So anyway, let's introduce you guys. So it's Ali and Des, and I've been dying to speak to you for ages, and you guys are from Mythstories, right?
That's the word.
Explain to everybody what Mythstories is.
Well, like the conglomerate word says, it's about myths and stories, but it's a
Yeah.
museum.
Yeah.
And that starts to get a little bit strange to explain, doesn't it? Because stories are intangible things. You can't collect them in the normal way, because to collect a story you need to be telling it.
Yes.
You need to give it life and breath.
Yeah.
So what we do is we collect artifacts and objects which represent those stories and help tell those stories,
Okay.
and keep them in an enclosed environment that we call Mythstories Museum of Myth and Fable.
It sounds amazing. And where is that?
That's up in Wem at the moment at the Morgan Library.
The Morgan Library. I really want to go. I thought it was in Telford. I was like, oh, go, it's in Telford, it's fine, but it's not, it's in Wem.
No, you can't miss us. We're across the road to the Dolly Tub, and we have 2 gorgeous cherubs above the door reading books, which is not what we do. It's not what we do,
No.
you know, because storytelling is an oral art. It is all about face to face, tongue to ear. Well, not quite tongue to ear, but
Really. Yes. You always say off the tongue and into the ear, don't you?
yeah.
So the stories that you tell, are they age-old stories, or are they improvised, are they...
Well, they're definitely improvised in as much as they are age-old traditional stories. But of course, you can't learn the words. You just learn the story, and then you have to tell it in the way that your audience actually want to hear it. So
Okay.
you tell the same story differently to a group of adults than you would to a group of 5-year-olds. And you know, you might saucy it up a bit for a group of old-age pensioners because they
Yeah.
don't mind the raunchy stuff.
use more elaborate words and...
Yeah, it's not just vocabulary though,
No.
it's the content of the story.
I
And the
totally
way you do it is you remember a story not by the words in the story that you're going to use, but by pictures in your head. Almost storyboards in your head. And you've got a picture up there of the first scene. You can choose anything you like from that picture to tell the person in front of you about. And you choose things that you think they'll be interested in. And the joy of telling the story rather than reading it is you can see the audience. So if their eyes start to glaze over a bit when you're talking about that facet of the story, well, you move to another one and you wait for them to be interested and engaged in what you're telling, and then you build on that.
Oh, fantastic.
The idea, of course, is to not recreate the scenes in your head in their head, but to put the scenes of the story into their heads. And so you use all sorts of things. You know, you might reference the smells of the outdoor air. You might mention the taste of things or the feel of things.
Okay.
But you sort of use all the senses and you try and awaken that interest in them so that they get a complete picture. And if you're telling a tale to 20 people, by the end of the tale, each of those 20 people will have a different idea of what that story was about. They'll have a different vision of what
That's
a beautiful
really
princess
good.
was or a handsome prince was.
Because
But
they're
it'll be
imagining
theirs.
it.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
it's their own
It's
imagination,
their
their
hands
experience that comes to bear on it.
And of course, that's why stories change through the centuries, because different people have different ideas.
Like Chinese whispers type.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. So let me get this right. You have a synopsis for a story or a premise. Okay, so you remember kind of how it goes. But the way you describe, you get your way through that, is you improvise the smells and the sounds, and you kind of
You
move.
put yourself in the position of the characters in the story. You
Oh,
try and
right, that's
describe the feelings on the way. In a way, what you're doing is you're trying to get the audience to empathise with the characters in the stories. So you're appealing to the life experiences of your listeners and trying to relate them to the characters.
And that's a great quality to teach someone that's young. Because
That's when it gets really exciting, when you teach young people how to tell stories.
their imagination is still rife. It's still
Yeah.
you know, and you need to try and
And it's all about communication. growing up is learning how to communicate effectively. And
Exactly.
it's got all sorts of byproducts from that. Really, really does benefit that part of your life.
Yeah, it does. We did a project with teenagers, and it's a typical Heritage Lottery funded type project, and at the end they want to know what skills people have learnt. So I thought, well, I'll ask the teenagers what skills they think they've learnt. And they filled the whole page with all sorts of things, from working together and being creative and leadership skills to standard artistic skills, from when they were trying to draw their pictures and making notes and all sorts. It's incredible what actually learning storytelling does to an actual person.
And the guys who work with us all end up in weird different places. So, it's not all about teaching someone to be a storyteller and they'll end up as a storyteller on the stage. Some of them end up in zoology at the moment, don't they? We've got
that seems to be a very
two young zoologists, one to bring us around to Darwin, one evolutionary zoologist. So,
That's really good. It's on
And
track.
we've got some in politics and some in the law, as you might imagine, with people who know how to do their words.
Yeah.
And someone's
how to
learning
tell their lies creatively.
Absolutely, yeah. And someone's learning sign language, which is an interesting thing as well, because that's all about interpretation and
Yeah,
communication.
that's a really good point. Yeah, sign language. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think. Do you believe that maybe nurturing an imagination and keeping it alive throughout a young child for as long as possible? Do you reckon it has benefits? Because I find that I've got a crazy imagination. I think about things. That's why I do things like this. But it's also taught me a bit of confidence, and I improvise all the time with the podcasts. So I work with 2 different podcasts, and none of this is scripted. You kind of have to move your way through it, and I just think it's really important to kind of nurture that. And you guys, you see that
Well,
a
your
lot.
imagination's a playground, and it's the place where you can go where it's safe and explore different ideas.
Yeah.
And these traditional stories offer a framework for that to happen. They're fantastic.
They're brilliant. So where do you guys go with this then? What do you do as far as
Well, last
events?
Saturday, crazily enough, we were up on Howmond Hill.
I saw that on your Facebook.
Yeah. Story walk at Howmond Hill. It was cold, it was windy, it was wet.
Oh, blowing a gale.
Absolutely. But it was fabulous, just to actually get some stories out that sort of relate to the landscape in those respects.
Because there's some great bits of Holman, the tree that's turned over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you had a whale of a time with that,
Yes, we did. We did have a whale
I
of
mean,
a
the
time.
joy is that when you're in a place like that, half the story is being told by the environment.
Yeah.
You just position yourself in the right place with the right things behind you, and you don't have to contextualise everything with your audience. They read it from where you are and what they can see.
I always remember when my kids were younger, we used to go to the park, and he's telling this story about a gold giant. And what I used to do is I used to get the little coins you get at Christmas. I used to run ahead, and I used to hide the coins in the nooks and crannies of the trees and stuff like that. And I'd be like, right, you have to be really quiet and tiptoe, we've got to find all the coins, otherwise the gold giant will come and get you. And they get the last coin, I'm like, he's coming, and we literally run all the way through the park because they were scared of I love things like that.
Yeah, it's
Kids
making
love
it
it.
happen in the outdoors.
It is
as
great.
well.
I remember years and years back we were working with a group of a community group that wanted to learn how to tell stories. Do you remember?
Yeah.
This was up in North Wales, and they had a little bit of a railway line running through them. And part of the history of the line was talking about the poverty of the area and how the women used to send their daughters and their sons out to actually pick up the bits of coal that had fallen off the trains as they went past.
And the train drivers and the firemen, they used to know how poor everyone was. So what they used to do is, on purpose, they used to kick off the footplate some of the coal and the coke, so it fell next to the railway line so the kids could pick it up. So we spread some coal and coke along the side when we did the story walk so they could pick it up, much the same as your gold coin.
Yeah.
It's experiencing it in all of the senses rather than just one. And I mean, that's why outdoor storytelling is so magical, because you can feel the wind in your face, you can feel the rain, and who cares if it rains after all?
It's
But you
atmosphere,
can-
isn't it?
Yeah, you can pick up things, like you can pick up the leaves or those bits of coke or those bits of
Yeah.
gold coin, that
How many people do you get going to these events then? Does it vary?
Varies wild.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's a really, really, really difficult time, like in the middle of the summer holidays,
Yeah.
you know, you might not think that's a difficult time, but it can be.
Yeah, trying
you
to
know,
get,
you might
childcare.
sort of stand there, and there might be just one family turn up. You know, and then on other occasions, I think the one we did at Montgomery Castle was probably
Yeah.
the most we've had this year. We had about 40 people.
Oh, wow.
You know, which is just fabulous. We walked up the side of the castle and then sat down and had a shared picnic and told stories. And in fact, one of the audience stood up and told us a story.
Yeah, in an outdoor environment, that's about the limit to
It is really.
how big you can get. I mean, we have done bigger audiences than that, but of course the voice doesn't carry naturally that far, especially.
That's
in
what I
an
was going to say,
open
like when you've got like
environment.
a natural amphitheatre
Yeah.
of people sitting around you, you kind of relish the idea of having to raise your voice and get your voice across there. Does that help? Does it encourage you to do that?
Definitely, what you do is you gauge which way the wind's blowing and you
Definitely.
use your voice in that direction,
Yeah.
so the wind carries your voice.
Yeah, fantastic.
Position yourself right with the acoustics of where you are. I mean, up on the top of Beeston Castle, the actual ruins of the castle make a sort of amphitheatre, and you can deliver to a it was about 100 we were delivering to up there, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But it's so much better just if you can use your voice without an amplifier or anything of that kind. You know,
Yeah.
like,
You
it's-
get all the nuances of the
You do.
voice there.
It sounds
Definitely.
amazing. How long have you, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you guys been doing this? The Mythstories, how long has it been?
Actually, I'm really pleased you asked that because it's our 20th anniversary next February.
That's amazing.
Isn't it
That's
incredible?
fantastic. 20 years of doing this.
We started it off actually in 1998 as a website, and then we decided to turn it into an actual museum.
And we found this wonderful location just off Hills Lane along Carnarvon Lane. And it was above a pub called Lloyd's in the town.
Yeah.
It was this great big,
Long
massive,
area.
expansive group of rooms, and we thought this would be just right. And it was, really, wasn't it? For
Oh, it's fabulous.
3 seasons we were there before we moved on, and then I suppose we had to leave Shrewsbury at that time because
Well, the rents
disability.
went up, didn't they?
Yeah,
There was the disability problems because it was, you know, had to go up a set of stairs to get there. There was all sorts of reasons,
Yeah, the
really.
Disability Discrimination Act came in, and it meant that if we were to continue upstairs, we'd have to try and install a lift, and that was megabucks. And
How dare they?
so we were lucky enough to move on to the Morgan Library there, with the help of the Shropshire Council.
And so they came to our rescue completely, actually. We were doing a training session for their librarians, and they heard that we were moving, and one of them said, well, our library's just moving in Wem, we're moving into new places, why don't you see if you can have the old building? And the council said yes.
It was, a week after that, we were talking to the chief executive face to face, and she said, this seems just the place for you. I'll refer
bet
you to
the-
the property department and get it signed on.
Do you work well with places like the library, and do you work well with others? You know, yeah.
Well, we ran a storytelling club for young people at Wellington Library for 7 years. We only stopped it in this September, actually.
Yeah.
Very reluctantly, but we couldn't find anyone to fund it, which is a real shame.
Was
That's
it?
involved a couple of projects with Shropshire Archives
It has,
too. So,
definitely, yes.
and in the past we've worked with Shrewsbury Libraries on a
I
number
bet you'd
of
have found
occasions.
loads of great things to use for your stories and the archives. You know, I can just imagine.
Ones in the archives are just fabulous.
I've been told to go. I did speak to a representative from the library about the biscuit, and she said maybe we can get you in the archives one day. I was like, oh, don't do that to me. You know, so many amazing things you're going to
There's
see.
miles of it.
When you go down to the depths of the archives, there's all of these shelves running for miles and miles. It's
I think
incredible.
the maps are fascinating, aren't they? You
Yeah.
just look at the areas. We
I've
were
never
doing,
been down there. I can't imagine what it looks like. You said it's miles and miles of things, but I can imagine that. But to see it myself would be amazing. You know.
We took a group of traveller teenagers down there as one of the projects we were running, and their eyes were as big as soup bowls. They couldn't believe it. It was like being in fairyland.
treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, how these events that you're doing, say at Wellington Library and things like that, is that high in demand? Were there people upset when you kind of stopped it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, they were very upset. But it got to the stage where we couldn't carry on because we couldn't even find a trust that would pay our travel expenses. I mean, you don't mind volunteering at things like that, especially when you're working with young people. And we have done it, haven't we? We've volunteered for a term or something like that if we can't find the funding.
Yeah.
But you can't just constantly pay out on travel
You've got to
expenses
live as
all the
well.
time.
You can't.
Times is hard for charities at the moment.
Absolutely, time is hard for charities, and you've got to be realistic. But we do hope that we'll be able to start up again, and some of those children will be able to, work with us later. And they do, don't they?
Yeah, we're hoping to start a Saturday morning club in Shrewsbury very soon. Can't announce anything on that yet, but that'll be for teenagers and on Saturday mornings learning how to tell stories.
I would love to attend a storytelling one time. Maybe bring the Tascam and capture it. See show people what you actually do. Because we can talk about it as much as we like on here, but to actually get it and show people. I've listened to the website's amazing, by the way. Go to mythstories.com because there are some audio stories told on there.
Oh yes,
yeah,
including some told by young people with videos of them. I don't know if you managed to find those.
I did see that there was a young lad, there's Jacob. Is Jacob
Jake has become a storyteller. Jacob has become one of our trustees.
Oh, fantastic!
Which is just brilliant.
Both fine young storytellers.
Yeah. I was perusing through the Facebook, and I love Facebook. I was for your Facebook, and I saw that he'd won the Young Welsh Storyteller.
That's it. That's Jacob. He's one of our trustees, and he's currently in his third year at Bangor University. He's the evolutionary zoologist that we mentioned.
Yeah,
and,
fantastic.
And he's set up a storytelling society at university.
See, what you've done is you've captured the imagination of a young person, and you've helped them grow in confidence, and I guess you projected them into the path that they're going in, and that's amazing what you guys have done,
But I tell you what, they give back time and time again. And you mentioned our website. One of our former young storytellers met us about this time last year, didn't she? Yeah. And she said, your website is complete and utter rubbish. So we said, well, come and show us how it should be done then. And so she came over one day and gave up a whole day of her time and redid all the navigation and said, this ought to link to that and that ought to link to that. And poor old Des spent the 6 months programming it, and now it's up.
Yes, I'm on it. Yeah, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
Oh well, that's thank you very much, Megan.
Thanks, Megan. You helped me with my research last night while I was in work. So kids of today, we've got social media. There's a lot of kids that are making YouTube videos and vlogging and things like this. That's good, right?
Oh yes,
very good.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anything that can get their ideas out there, help them express themselves, help them learn to communicate effectively. Yeah. That's a good thing.
People say a lot of negative things about social media and how it rots the brain and all that stuff, but I don't think so. I mean, you've got all these kids that are writing statuses on Facebook, things like that. They're writing. They're reading, even though social media can be...
No, I think it's a great thing. I'd like to see them do more with their mouths and less with their thumbs.
Yes,
but,
yes.
That's just the isolation of being somewhere where the audience isn't there with you.
Yeah.
And that can be isolating sometimes.
It is important to actually learn how to communicate with people, because
communicating
through social media is a different skill. Yeah. Both skills are going to be important to these young kids when they grow up.
Yeah, because as great as I am doing this, I love doing podcasting. Sometimes with people, I can have a day where I'm feeling a bit down and not 100%.
Yeah.
So I can get anxious in front of people. Yeah, I could stand in front of 200 people. I mean, I do scare acting at the Dana.
Oh, fun!
I'm playing Bad Santa this year, which I'm really looking forward to. Bad Santa is a role that was definitely designed for me. So make sure you guys check that out, 21st and 22nd. But yeah, so I can do that. But sometimes, so maybe if you, I don't know. What about you guys? Do you feel that? Are you good with people?
We all have a bad day. It's just one of those things you have to take into account.
But I'm just going to pick you up on the Bad Santa role thing. The thing about storytelling is that you're actually yourself when you're telling a story. You're not actually putting on a role. And so what it does teach young people is that they are important, they can be respected, but what they've got is good to share with other people. They don't have to pretend to be what they aren't. You know? And it also teaches them to support each other.
Yeah, I feel
You know, and that everybody has vulnerabilities, and that the important thing is to actually acknowledge them and to help support them and to help everyone else.
Yeah, the joy of these young storyteller clubs we run is that all of the people there support each other, and that's really, really important.
Yes.
Once someone's told a story to the group, the rest of the group will comment on it, but they're commenting on it in a very, very positive way. They maybe suggest a few things which could be better.
Yeah.
They never really attack the person who's just told
Sounds
the
like a
story.
great community.
They build upon it.
Because they know
It could
very
be
well
better.
that when they stand up, they're actually sharing themselves, and yourself is a pretty precious thing to you.
Yes,
It's the most precious thing you've got, really.
it is, and
And you want people to respect it.
I quite like it when I'm doing acting at the prison. I've done so many great roles, but I've been like the silly Irish.
Or you can show aspects of your personality there, but you don't ever have to make yourself vulnerable.
No,
You
yeah.
know, in the same way that you do when you're standing up.
Yeah,
telling
that's a
story.
great point. There's also
Storytelling's about the storyteller as well as about the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
nowhere
that's
to
quite
hide.
important. When you're a storyteller, you have to find material that you actually have invested in and have ideas about and feel is part of you.
yeah.
Otherwise, it just doesn't come across so well.
Yeah, so what have you guys got coming up then? Have you got any events planned?
Oh,
We
yeah.
have indeed. The Darwin Festival looms next year. I mean, we've got a few things before then,
Yes.
but that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got a lovely event marked for that,
Yes.
which takes place on the 5th. Does it?
No, 10th.
10th.
I was
Oh,
like, no, the 5th is the start of the storytelling club over in Montgomeryshire. That's
right.
different, isn't it?
Okay.
So, do the 10th
I can't
first.
see very well,
You want to
so
look at this?
he's got the website up here, so I can use it as a little memoir,
Yeah, so
paid memoir there.
Sunday-
the 10th of February at 4 p.m. We are at UCS, University Centre, Shrewsbury, down at the Guildhall, and we'll be exploring the story of the Wrekin. It's called In the Footsteps of Giants and the True Origins of the Wrekin. I mean, everyone knows that story about the Wrekin giant, don't they, and the cobbler he met at Wellington.
And that really is, well,
That's the
cobblers.
starting, yeah, it's the starting point. And, well, the story just doesn't hold up. I mean, I was reading Peter Toggill's Shropshire Geology the other day, and the first thing that struck me is, wow, you know, that story about the giant and the cobbler just couldn't have been, could it? Because that would have had to be one really, really big spade. I mean, if you imagine the size of the Wrekin Hill and that just being the blade of a spade,
yeah.
well, that spade would be about 5 kilometres long.
Yeah.
And that means the giant, well, the spade is sort of from your waist down to the ground, isn't it? You put your foot on it and you dig it into the ground like that.
Yeah.
So that giant would be around about 10 kilometres tall at least.
Yeah, so you put a crater in the earth, it wouldn't just,
Yeah.
be a hill.
Well, I mean, physically, you know,
In order to
he
carry
could-
it, it'd have to be that big.
he'd have to be 10 kilometres tall, and he'd be walking along with that great big spade of earth over his shoulder. Obviously, he walked a long way by the time he got to Wellington, because I mean, the Breedon Hills are a long way away. Even if you're 10 kilometres tall, that's a good few footsteps. And by the time he got there, even if he had seen a little cobbler by the side of the road, that cobbler would have looked absolutely minuscule, smaller than an ant.
Yeah.
Well,
And there's no way the cobbler could have talked to him, is there?
no,
They
the
couldn't have had a conversation.
cobbler's voice wouldn't have carried. And if the giant had said anything to the cobbler, well, his ears would have been just ripped out.
Yes.
They would never have worked again. So I thought, well, it must be the other story. It must be the story of the two giants that's the correct one. And that's what we're going to explore here in a truly scientific fashion.
Yeah.
I'll be showing pictures of how I know that story did actually happen and the proofs within it. And there'll be an academic who will be telling us how the story maybe could have been due to something else in geography or geology, and I'm not quite sure what he'll be saying, but...
No, well, we're meeting up with him early in January so that we can get a feel for exactly what each of us is going to say.
So they're going to be giving you Earth science, and you're going to be giving them two giants instead.
Precisely,
yeah.
And it's 4 families, and at the end of the session we're going to ask the families which one they prefer, which they think is the most likely to have occurred, you know?
I mean, way back in Darwin's time, he was going out and looking to see how the Earth worked and how the things upon it worked, men and women, the animals, etc. And there were other academics who were going out and discovering stories. They were collecting them at the same time as he was collecting zoological specimens. The trouble is, the two collections don't really match up and don't marry when you actually examine them in detail. And we're going to try and come to some conclusion about how the two things really do intersect and interlock and make the real truth. The truth of how we tick as human beings, especially how we tick as human beings in Shropshire.
I'm smiling from ear to ear because I love things like this. I'm totally, like, if you... People know me, they know I'm really passionate about creativity, and this for me is I'll definitely be there. I'm going to be there, and I'll give you
Good.
yes.
Bring those children of yours.
Yes, I will.
Look forward to seeing you. And
You can book it up through Eventbrite, I think, can't you?
you can indeed. There's even a little click on the website
Yep,
that says Eventbrite. Click on there and you can book tickets.
I'm going to do
I mean,
it.
it is free. It is free.
It's free of charge, but we still do need you to book a ticket, so we hire the right size room.
Well, hopefully with the help of the Shrewsbury Biscuit. So yeah, guys, go on the website. Go to mythstories.com. Go click what's on at the top, and then you'll see the link there. And if you pick press the pink Eventbrite button there, it'll take you to the page, I guess. This will fill up quickly because I think it's really fun. It's really fun.
It's going to be fun, definitely. We've got the right academic as well. His first email to us was, "I guess I'm going to be the bad guy here," but he might not necessarily be the bad guy. That's not the way we play it. You know?
Well, at least Darwin tried. At least he tried.
It's all about respect storytelling. So you know.
Yeah. So, well, Darwin had his ideas.
Exactly.
Well, you know. Shame he's wrong.
Exactly.
Well, I wouldn't say it was wrong, he just interpreted things in a different way.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Love it.
plurality, isn't it? You've got to have both sides, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, you've got to have the imagination and the practical, you know?
And the truth somewhere in between, maybe.
And if you can inspire one person from say 100 people that turn up for that, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of people. That's a win, right? Just one person.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what
One
it's all about.
convert is worth more than...
Well, you've converted me. You
I mean,
absolutely converted me.
that's why people exist, really, isn't it? To inspire other people.
Well, most people, well, yes. Yeah, you know, some people just kind of want to get on with life, but I don't. I want people to hear my voice, and I want people to hear your voice too, because what you guys do, I think, is a fantastic thing. You know, taking young minds and encouraging them to go on and create and tell stories is an amazing thing. It's a great quality to have, because I think confidence is key.
Oh, yes.
And to have the confidence to stand up in front of, say, 5 people, 10 people, 40 people, you know, I think is really, it's a great quality.
I'll tell you a little bit of anecdotal evidence on that, just to support your theory. Well, as I say, we were running this storytelling club over in Wem. It's one of the first ones we ran, actually, and one of the members for it went for a Saturday job at one of the sheds in Shrewsbury. All right, then B&Q. Let's advertise at B&Q.
I understand.
And part of his interview, there was 5 of the people who wanted the job sitting around there. They gave them each a strange object from the B&Q backpack and stores, you know, and they said, "Sell this to a woman and a child." And none of them knew what the stories were, or what the objects were, should I say. And he was the only one, he said, who actually stood up and was able to hook over a story as to what this object might be and why this woman and child needed it. And he got the job.
Fantastic.
Storytelling wins you employment.
Absolutely.
Can we plug one other thing too?
Please,
Absolutely,
yes.
please plug away,
Yeah.
you know.
Back to February again, and back to UCS again. the
February the
University Centre
16th
Shrewsbury.
and 20th anniversary.
Not quite a week later. our 20th anniversary celebrations, and also a memorial to the great Shropshire storyteller Richard Walker, who died on the day we opened, alas. So we're doing a Pirates Day. Richard wrote a fantastic book, my first book of pirates for Barefoot Books. So we thought, how better to celebrate our anniversary than doffing our cap to him, that book, and 20 years.
Yeah.
So we're doing a Pirate Day. It starts in the morning with a chance to make a big pirate boat for the backdrop of the gig in the afternoon, and make yourself an eye patch, a hat, maybe a Jolly Roger flag, or all sorts of other things that pirates need.
It sounds as if it's for children, but actually it's for families.
No,
and you
I'm
are allowed
sold.
to come along and
I'm
make
sold.
yourself an eye patch as well if you want.
Yeah, in fact, it's got to be families.
It's gotta
They've
be families,
families
yep.
working together. And then they go off for lunch, and they meet again out on Frankwell Quay. And when they're lurking on Frankwell Quay, waiting there, suddenly two pirates appear. Andy Harrop-Smith and Jake Evans, who's one of our former young storytellers, who's now making himself a really good career as a professional teller. And they appear in pirate guise and press gang the audience and take them away to the pirate ship and tell them stories for the afternoon. Can't
Okay.
be bad, can it?
Both sessions are free.
I'm going to both of these things. Well, I'm going to be the one at the 10th anyway. It's kind of
Great.
this is what I'm here to do. In fact, I've booked 2 weeks off for the Darwin Festival, so I'll be there at pretty much everything I can get to. But I'll definitely be there, and I definitely want to come to that on the 16th. It's great, and you guys should go too. What was I going to say? I always have these moments where my mind just goes.
They call them senior moments, but they shouldn't really. I mean,
Well, I don't
it's to us all.
know. I'm getting there. I've just done a night shift. I'm kind of on my last legs, but
But you've had 2 coffees this morning. I've seen you.
no,
yes, I have had 2 coffees.
That's probably causing the moment. Yeah.
So what other applications are there for this? You got the museum and the website. What can you do with this? I see that the BBC have written a quote here. Is there any TV applications that you guys are working on? Have you worked on anything? Is there an inspiration?
We've done a few TV appearances over the years.
Oh,
And
come on. Sing your praises. You're on Japanese TV on Christmas Day.
I've always had 1 year to a massive audience. And guess how many Japanese people have crossed the threshold of Mythstories since?
I have no idea.
I don't think any.
Oh, really?
No. So it didn't really work. I mean, they
It didn't really
all-
work as a publicity thing,
They
but they
didn't
enjoyed
get
the
on
programme.
planes. And, well, actually, we have had a few Japanese
Yeah, we
people
have.
because we brought over a wonderful resident group from the Manga Museum in Osaka who do a Japanese form of storytelling called Kamishibai. They're called Spice Arthur 702. You get a chance and look for them on Google. There's a
It's wonderful.
YouTube video somewhere of them doing Star Wars.
Wow.
The Kamishibai technique's this sort of picture storytelling, where you have pictures and you tell the story while the pictures are being displayed. It's really, really exciting and fantastic.
But they take it to extremes. They have several hundred pictures for each story, and they accompany it with music and all sorts. It's really very, very interesting
We've
stuff.
been lucky enough to bring them over to this country twice now,
Yep.
so
Sounds great. I want to come and tell you guys a story sometime.
Oh, please do.
I would love to do that.
Collect them.
But speaking about the Japanese, they have. Have you seen those guys? The great visual, like, kind of turn their bodies into like pool tables and things like this. They turn their heads into like pool balls and things like that. They create like these great scenes where one guy's head will be the white cue ball and he'll run and hit the other balls and they'll bounce around. They're amazing visual.
That is incredible.
It's really good. They turn themselves into all sorts of like slot machines and things like that. That's really, really cool.
Real contortionist type stuff.
that's what you call working together.
Yeah.
Cooperation.
What about you guys? What's your inspiration? What made you want to do this originally?
I've always loved stories, and when I was in what would these days be called Year 7,
Yes.
I had a maths teacher who came from, I don't know where part of the world he came from actually, I honestly don't.
Well, he's part Greek.
He was part Greek, but it wasn't Greece he was telling us about. He used to tell us how he was brought up in a village in the middle of the jungle. Whether it was true or not, I have no idea, but I totally believed it when I was in Year 7. And if we all did our maths work, and there was a few minutes left at the end of the lesson, he'd tell us about when he was walking through the jungle and met a lion, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it was incredible. And it was a real incentive for getting your maths work done on time. But it was just so interesting hearing him and hearing about something that was totally outside my experience as an 11-year-old at that time. And that stayed with me for life. You had an even earlier experience, didn't you?
Yeah, I would have been about 7, and I had a teacher at primary school called Mrs. McSharry, and Mrs. McSharry was an Anglo-Indian, but she was a Hindu, and she knew some absolutely fantastic stories, which totally captivated me. It wouldn't have been right to tell them in the school at that time, so I had to stay behind and clean the brushes and wash the glue sticks and things like that.
Yeah.
And when I did, she'd tell me the stories, and they've stayed with me ever since. And when I became a fine artist, I had to paint something, so I immediately went back to those stories and started to illustrate those. And that was the first set of paintings I worked on as a fine artist.
And when we moved up to Shropshire, we started to look at actual Shropshire folklore and to find out what stories were native to this part of the world, because we'd moved up from, well, the Herts-Essex border, hadn't we?
Yeah.
You know, so we really knew very little about this part of the world. And so we looked at their folklore, and it is such a rich scene of folklore. It's incredible, you know. And we were absolutely blown over by what we found. It's beautiful.
We're in a great place, aren't we? Because we're right by the border of Wales. There's going to be lots of
Somebody
being on a
has actually
border is
said-
very important.
Yeah, because you've got the real life conflicts, the wars and things like that happened, but you've also got the stories that were set up to actually protect the borders.
Yeah.
You know, after all, you can put a whole army somewhere, but it's a darn sight easier to actually have a story about a devil and make sure that people don't go there because of that.
Yeah. Have you got favourites that you like to tell? What's, you know, about the Welsh border? Have you got anything like that?
We've got all sorts of favourites. There are so many stories in Shropshire, it's quite amazing. You know, if we go back to science and we drew a line around Shropshire, the size of that place has more stories than anywhere else that size anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
It is so stories. More ghost stories here than there are anywhere else in the world. More myths, more legends, more folk tales. It's saturated.
Fantastic. That sounds really good. How long have we been going for? For a while. Guys, it's been amazing talking to you guys. It really has, and I can't wait to see you guys again at the Darwin Festival. I'm really excited by it.
We can't wait to be there.
Nope.
Yeah. Maybe after the festival or after your performance, we can have a chat backstage. I want to know how you guys found it. You know, how you enjoyed it.
You can talk to our pirates as well. They'll give you some good feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds really good. Do you want to plug anything else? Is there anything else you want to plug? Any events you want to?
Oh, we want to mention our post-Christmas story walk. We have a
yeah.
tradition. It'll be the Friday, the 4th of January, I believe.
That's it.
Absolutely. And we're meeting up at the National Trust Tea Room in Cardingmill Valley.
Oh, I love that place.
It's a fantastic place.
Yes.
It'll be a short walk up along.
Sometimes it has to be because of the weather.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's a short slide.
But either way, we'll be going for a walk. We'll be telling a few stories, hearing a few stories, and then going back for a nice cup of hot chocolate in the tea rooms. So meeting at 12 o'clock.
What date was that again, sorry?
That's Friday, the 4th of January.
Friday the
At
4th.
12 noon.
Absolutely.
Guys, make sure you check that out. I've got one more question to ask before we shoot, and I ask it every guest. What does Shrewsbury mean to you?
It means a hell of a lot to me.
Inspiration, really.
Yeah.
We moved here and had a fantastic time. Our
We
life
moved
really
here to bring
expanded.
up our son, basically. It wasn't working for us down south, too pressurised, and everything was money orientated. We wanted to come to somewhere that still had values, and we chose Shrewsbury. We moved here in 1980 something or other, 1986.
When I was born.
There you go.
Our son was 4 at the time, and he grew into a fantastic person. And well, we've got Shrewsbury to thank for that.
And we've got Shrewsbury to thank for actually giving us the space to create the museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which has been our life for the last 20 years.
It's helped carve out your life, hasn't it? You know, and,
It has.
Yeah.
and that's inspiration to me because I'm not a Salopian at all. I kind of moved everywhere, and I moved here last August, and this is the reason why I do the show, because I felt a great warmth and fell into love hard for the place, you know. So I wanted to try and capture it on a podcast. That's why I do this. So hearing about you guys moving here and creating a really great life for yourselves, that's really good.
Shrewsbury's getting bigger and bigger all the time, but it's not too big to have a real vibrant community, and that's what makes a place.
Fantastic. Well, guys, it's been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to see you again at the Darwin Festival.
Definitely, and enjoy your time as Brad Santa.
Yeah, and
I relish it. I can't wait. It's a bit rude, and I can kind of let go a bit. So that's always a bit better.
Well, that's always what you need to do just before Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you give this episode a like and a share and a subscribe. And I'm off next week. I'm having New Year's to myself. No recording over Christmas. So thank you very much, and catch me soon. Thank you.